Hey, welcome to my video about Starlight and Starlight Mini, the new upscaling models for Topaz Video. I've been using Topaz photo and video for about 6 to 8 months now, normally to upscale AI images or videos, so I thought I'd give some of my thoughts on the new model types. Hey, speaking of new model types, guess what just got announced while I was making this video? A new model type, Astra. My understanding is that Astra is based on Starlight, so it's a diffusion model, but it's going to have some additional options like changing the frame rate and even different model types, some of which are faster and cheaper to render. Topaz Video has had upscaling models for a while, so why is this a big deal? Like, how are these any different? Well, the original, I'll call them traditional upscaling models used in Topaz Video, those models are called GAN models. Starlight and Starlight Mini, however, are diffusion-based models. Oh no, those were big scary words. You might not know what they mean. Look, I am not a code wizard. I can't fully explain all of this in intricate detail. I'm essentially like a dumb baby. But that's also kind of my superpower because it means that I can explain things in a way that like babies can understand. So we'll do that. We'll do AI school for babies. This is the school. Let's begin. We'll start with a GAN. What's that? It's not super complicated. You basically clone a model and then get both of the clones to fight each other. That's why the A stands for adversarial. But they're gonna do this whole fight with pictures. The first clone is gonna try and pass off a fake image as a real one. And the other clone, called the discriminator, it's gonna try and pick out which images are fake. In theory, both clones get better at what they're trying to do the more they do it. And look, I know this is super simplified, but basically that's how a GAN model learns how to upscale an image. See, we're not so stupid after all. We're not some stu-mammy? Next up is diffusion models. Now we all know that the internet is made out of cats. So imagine if we fed a model all of the pictures of cats on the internet. And then we told it to turn each one of those pictures into random noise, one step at a time. But we don't really need pictures of random noise. So we'll go ahead and tell the model to denoise this image back into the cat it was in the first place. Because the internet is forever, the model will remember all of the denoising steps for all of the cats on the internet. So now, we can hand the model any image of random noise and say, make me a cat wearing glasses. It'll go beep bop boop bop and make us a cat wearing glasses. Is it actually way more complicated than that? Yes, it is actually way more complicated than that, but it's the basic idea. And more or less the same process will work for upscaling an image. Look, I know that was a lot. School's out for summer, everybody gets an A. Hey, I've got an idea. Now that we're 3 minutes into the video, why don't I actually talk about all the stuff I said I was going to talk about, like Starlight and Starlight Mini? So everything you're looking at here started as image to video in Kling 1.6. That was all output at 1080p. Took that to Topaz and upscaled it to 4K. Started with a traditional GAN model. You'll see the model type listed in the image. There's a bunch of different kinds. Some are really good at faces, some are really good at textures, some are just good at general things. Next you'll see Starlight, and after that you'll see Starlight Mini. Then I'll break out an example of each type of upscale just to kind of talk more specifically about like what the pros and cons are of it. You might notice that some of these videos are kind of weird. I make some weird videos. Our cat sheriff's a very special guy. I think he's a pretty good place to look at GAN models, for example. Here we're looking at Thea. That's the model designed specifically for high detail. Think like fur, feathers. I'm breaking this one out for a few loops because I want you to take note of just how good of a job the GAN models do. And even though it's not necessarily adding new detail and just upscaling, the fur, the feathers, all of the details look really good. Starlight and looks like Astra coming out after that, the diffusion-based upscalers, they can do really awesome things, but do not sleep on these GAN upscalers. They can kind of be a workhorse because a lot of the time they are more than good enough. There's a reason I've been using them to upscale everything for 7-8 months. GAN models are also, for lack of a better term, much lighter weight than diffusion-based models. I routinely run GAN upscales on my 4060 8GB laptop. It's 13 inches, the battery is made out of hope, but it has no problem rendering this delicious hamburger you're looking at right now on your screen. Also, at least currently, and Astra might change some of this, but currently at any rate, The GAN models are the only ones where you have a lot of control over things like sharpening, reducing noise, that kind of thing, changing the frame rate. Starlight Mini, for example, off the top of my head, I think all you can do is 2x upscale to 4K. I like how I said off the top of my head and then checked my notes. Anyway, I feel like I'm giving people the impression that I'm not impressed by the diffusion-based upscalers, and that's not the case at all. In fact, I think Starlight's absolutely amazing. It does stuff I didn't even know you could do with a video upscaler. I just want people to understand what they're getting into with upscalers like this. Remember a few minutes ago when we diffused a cat out of noise? Well, to upscale like that, we have to add noise to the image and then diffuse it out. That's inherently destructive. Our original image kind of goes away. It's just used to constrain the model in terms of the new image it generates. But make no mistake, it's a new image. Bigger, but a different image. I don't know if I'd call it a full-on hallucination, but sometimes the model can chase down a bit of a rabbit hole. I'm going to zoom in on the cyber lady here, and we're going to take a look at her teeth. In the process of upscaling, the models come up with some sort of hallucination orthodontia that we really weren't going for, but that's just part of the gig with diffusion. You know, now that we've made it this far into the video, I want you to try something. I want you to say hallucination orthodontia 3 times fast, and I want you to type in the comments below, phonetically, exactly how it sounded coming out of your mouth. So this is the kind of shot where Starlight can really be a huge factor. It's a feather, I call it feather cat. It's a cat made out of feathers. But all those feathers give us a lot of room to add detail, which is what a diffusion model is about. Want to point out though, the GAN model does a solid job. Looks good. It's upscaled. I think it adds not necessarily detail, but it definitely, the image is clear and sharp in the GAN model. I'm just looping the Starlight version a few times here because I want to talk about it a little bit. This is the kind of shot you want to look for if you're kind of on the fence of, should I use the Starlight, the cloud-based render? Is it worth it? Do I want to pay for credits? If you've got a shot like this that's about detail, it's a diffusion-based model. Add noise to the image, you diffuse it out. You can add a ton of noise, you get a ton of detail. So if you have a shot that is kind of, for lack of a better term, about the detail, Starlight Full is probably going to be a good option. Sometimes it's almost too much detail, and it makes the image start to look more fake than it already is. I'm hoping that Astra will correct some of that, giving you a little more control over how creative you want the generation to be. And I understand this is a really stupid image. It's a cat made out of a feather boa, but it, like I said before, it's about detail, and that's when Starlight Full can really shine. At any rate, I really like how this one turned out. I figure there's a decent number of people watching a video like this that just aren't super familiar with Topaz at all, so I just wanted to make it clear. The GAN models we were looking at before, you can render those locally on your own machine once you buy the software. You'll usually need an NVIDIA GPU, but it's doable locally. Starlight Full, that's only available on the Topaz Cloud. And trust me, that's for your own good. It's a really big model. It would be so slow. I don't even think you could physically run it locally. I don't even think the hardware exists. But right now you're looking at Starlight Mini, and that you can run locally. The question is, should you? And I got some thoughts on that. This emo angel lady is a great place to start. I want you to watch her right hand as it moves across her wing. You're gonna notice this weird like ghosting. It's kind of like a noise between the fingers, and you know what? I'll just zoom in on the GAN upscale version. You see the soupy fingers, the smearing? That's super common in AI video generation. But check out your boy Starlight. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's much better. I'd much rather have that in After Effects, do maybe a little bit of masking, add some motion blur, might get something basically usable. Okay, Starlight Mini, you got this. You just gotta do like your big brother. Yeah, it's back. It's back. It's basically no better than the GAN model. And there's some additional downsides to Starlight Mini that the GAN model doesn't bring with it. But you know who's not bad? A good boy. A very good boy. And you're good to run Starlight Mini local if you have an NVIDIA GPU 2000 series or higher with at least 8 GB of VRAM. That's at least according to the Topaz website, but let's talk about that. I ran this on a 5090 with 32 GB of VRAM. The 10-second clips you've been seeing loops of here, Those took around 2 hours and 45 minutes each to render on that 5090. I was hitting peaks of around 680 watts pulled by just the graphics card alone. I went to the gym because my apartment was getting actively hot. This is a taxing model to run. It's mini in name only. This is a big model. Why does Santa have snow on him if he's in the Caribbean? The Caribbean? Sound off in the comments below. Starlight Mini's just often kind of hard to tell from the GAN models, and those are really trivial to run on. I've run them on my laptop, like I said before. On the 5090, they're nothing. Sometimes they take 25-30 seconds. When you're running Starlight Mini, you're not running much else. It was completely filling the VRAM on the 5090. It was spilling over into system memory. It looked like about 10 to 15 gigs worth. I was monitoring everything with a hardware monitor. I guess you could try running it on a 3070 8GB. If you have, post something below in the comments of what your experience was like. I don't know, what would that, 12 hours to render maybe? I don't know. And while that's happening, you really can't do anything else with your computer. I have a pretty high-end system, a 9950X3D, 96 gigabytes of memory, 5090. Checking email was sluggish when Starlight Mini was pretty much occupying the entirety of the computer's resources. It wasn't using much of the CPU, so I guess I could have turned on integrated graphics. That might have helped. I don't know. It would be some fiddling. Speaking of the system memory, I think maybe I found an issue. I'm not sure. Maybe I just don't understand what's going on. If anyone from Topaz is watching this, absolutely feel free to reach out and let me know that I don't know what I'm talking about and it doesn't work like this. But when I was monitoring my system with hardware monitor during all the Starlight Mini renders, like I said before, it looked like about 10 or 15 gigabytes was spilling over into system memory. But my system is on PCIe Gen 5, and that should be max 32 gigatransfers a second. And I know I can hit those speeds because when I run hardware monitor and I'm using Adobe Media Encoder, I can hit those speeds. Starlight Mini, Topaz, every single generation was capping at 5 gigatransfers. It wasn't ever getting to 5.1 or 5.5. No, it was capping. It appeared to be capping at 5. 5 gigatransfers a second, that's PCIe Gen 2. That's pretty old. That when that was new, so was Senator Obama. Like, that's a while ago. But every time I did a generation with Starlight Mini, never went over 5 gigatransfers a second. And I would think that I would, being that it looks like a bunch is spilling over into system memory. So in theory, I would assume having PCIe Gen 5 would be really helpful. But it appears not. It appears it's just not utilized. I don't know if that's a bug. I don't know if that's because I don't know what I'm talking about, and no, it doesn't work like that. It wouldn't matter. I don't know, but it seemed like something that would matter. And I noticed that it was consistent, so that's why I'm bringing it up. Hardware monitor is free. You can download it. You can run it when you do Topaz renders. See if you ever get over 5 gigatransfers. Okay, here's another thing that I thought was weird. This one might be user error. But every single one of the renders I did with Starlight Mini, I got this weird line. It's kind of hard to notice. It's right here. The brighter the clip, the easier it is to see, but it's present in all of the Starlight Mini renders I did. Again, I'm chalking that up to user error. Maybe I did something wrong, but I don't know. Maybe it's a bug. It seems strange. Again, it was consistently doing this, so that always jumps out to me. Also, there was something wrong with Starlight Mini frame rates. I couldn't put my finger on it or really figure out exactly what it was, but the frame rates were off. When I would import footage into After Effects that I had output in Starlight Mini, it would normally input correctly and say 30 frames a second, which is what I generated at. But sometimes it would import at like a weird not drop frame, not 29.97. It'd be like 29.273 or 0.26 something. Nothing. It's a nonsense frame rate. It's a frame rate no one uses that I've ever seen. And I thought, well, maybe that's just After Effects being dumb. After Effects can be dumb. So I would just check my footage, make sure it was importing at 30 frames a second, and no problem. And then something strange started happening when I would loop the footage a bunch of times, like 10, 20 times. Comparing it to any of the other footage, here it's the GAN footage, but it could be the Starlight full render or the 1080p. When you start looping the footage a bunch, slowly but surely the Topaz Mini footage starts to drop out of sync. You can see it here. This says to me something is wrong with the frame rate, and I just can't figure out what it is. I want to say that's user error, but I don't know. There was no frame rate to adjust in Topaz when I was outputting in Starlight Mini, so I don't know. I think this might be another bug. And this is very consistent. I have it with every single piece of Starlight Mini footage I have. If you loop it enough, it will start to desync every time. So yeah, I guess if you wanted my review of Starlight Mini, it would be that it's pretty buggy and it's probably not worth the extended generation time versus one of the GAN models that looks more or less just as good. Starlight Full, the cloud-based upscaler, that can look really, really good, and it does some really amazing stuff. It will cost credits every time you want to generate something, so you'll have to balance that. The traditional GAN models, absolute workhorses, reliable, fast, look pretty good. Starlight and Starlight Mini are super new, Astra is coming out, people are already testing it. So looking forward, like, what would I like to see? Well, it looks like Astra is going to give us more control, so that's good. What if there was, like, a way to use this in, say, Comfy UI? It's kind of out there, but, like, what if Starlight Mini, say, was packaged into a Comfy node, and if you have a license for Topaz, then you can use it. The models will get better, maybe we can have like a turbo or a lightning mode that generates in less steps so it's not so heavy to run. I don't know, I'm basically making upscaler fan fiction at this point. I have no idea. I'm curious what you guys think. You've watched this whole video. Have you used Starlight Mini? What are your thoughts on it? Have you used Starlight? What are your thoughts on it? What would you like to see in the future as this technology develops and they keep putting out more models? There's another model on the way that I'm looking forward to trying out. I put the single word outro into Flux, and any image that it spit out that I thought was vaguely interesting or extremely weird, I just put into Kling with a minimal prompt. These are your outro videos. If you enjoy these outro videos, if you enjoyed any of the videos here, if you enjoyed the larger video itself, please do like and subscribe. This is a very new channel. I'm not entirely sure yet what direction I want it to go in. If there's anything from this video that you found particularly helpful or insightful or useful or funny, mention it below. I can try and focus on that sort of thing. If you want more weird videos, you can check out my Twitter. The artist formerly known as Twitter, X, whatever. Also have a Blue Sky. Both of those are linked on my channel page. I try and post on both of those pretty often. And most of all, thank you for taking the time to watch this silly thing that I made. I hope you found it helpful, I hope it brightened your day, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks again for watching.